GOG is the Antichrist. GOG. GOG is the ruler of MAGOG, which is Russia, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, which is talking about Israel today, the 21st century. Now, what evidence is there that GOG is the Antichrist? Well, we read in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7 and 8, that when Christ comes at the second coming, he will defeat the Antichrist. Actually, it says he will destroy the Antichrist. The Antichrist is also known as the son of destruction, which translates into the destroyer, like the worst destroyer of all time. What does the Antichrist do that makes him so bad that Christ has to come personally to destroy him? Like Christ did not come personally to destroy Hitler or Stalin or Mao. So this guy has to be worse than those guys. Now we read in Revelation 13:7 that the beast, which is the Antichrist, the beast will make war against the Christian countries, which would be, to be more specific, it would be the leading Christian countries, because those countries have formed an alliance called NATO, which has been holding Russia back. And Russia doesn't like it one bit. And so Russia will bomb the countries of NATO, and America is the leading country of NATO. NATO is called the restrainer in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 5 through 7. One more thing about the Antichrist. We read that the rapture is linked to the revealing of the Antichrist, or linked to the revealing of the destroyer, which means the rapture occurs when he is revealed, which would mean he's revealed by the destruction that he launches, that causes the rapture. Like I said already, the second coming is where Christ defeats the Antichrist, destroys the Antichrist. But we read that the second coming occurs when Israel gets invaded. And so, if we put the two ideas together, the leader of the invasion of Israel should be the same man that Christ comes to destroy. The leader of the invasion of Israel should be the Antichrist. Now, in Zechariah 14, it describes Christ coming at the invasion of Israel, but it doesn't say who the leading nation is of that invasion. But in Ezekiel 38 and 39, it gives us the nation leading the invasion. It's the same invasion that's in Zechariah 14. Here we have GOG, the leader of Russia, as a bad guy, the villain. On that basis, I assert that GOG should be, logically, he should be the Antichrist. Now, GOG is the letters G-O-G. You can think of them as two letters, because the third letter is simply a repeat of the first letter. Anyway, G-O is the beginning of the name Gorbachev. Gorbachev begins with the letters G-O. And Gorbachev takes the numerical value of his name. It adds up to 636. But the letter M for Mikhail, the initial for Mikhail, is 30 points. So 636 plus 30 adds up to 666, which is a sign that he is the Antichrist. He's got that mark on his forehead. On which side? The right side. So that's an indication that it is the mark of the beast. Look up Revelation 13 about the mark and the number of the name of the beast. Now, one more thing about Gorbachev that points to him being the Antichrist. He told wonderful lies, and the Western world was gullible enough to believe his lies, and as a result, we have disarmed, which sets us up to be hit by Russia. Our arsenal is so small that Russia can hit us and then shoot down the missiles we send in retaliation. And so it will be a one-sided war. Russia will bomb us, but we don't get to bomb Russia. And this is talked about in Revelation 13, where the deadly wound is not deadly. Nuclear war is a war where both sides are supposed to be destroyed. It's called mutual assured destruction, but Russia has found a way to get around that. So it won't be mutual. And the whole world will say, will be amazed and will say, who is like the beast? Who can make war with him? Which would mean, who can make war with Gorbachev? There's one more passage. This is back to GOG. Ezekiel 38:17. This is God Almighty speaking to GOG. Verse 17, you are the one I was talking about long ago. This is God talking. When I announced through my servants, the prophets of Israel, that in days to come, I would bring someone to attack Israel. The sovereign Lord has spoken. Okay, now it says that GOG, G-O-G, is the one that the prophets have foretold as attacking Israel. And I've found 5 prophets that talk about an invasion of Israel. There's Ezekiel, of course, and there's Daniel, 2 passages in Daniel, Isaiah 66, and there's Joel, and there's Zechariah 14. And so they all are talking, according to what I just read you, they all should be talking about GOG. So this man is extremely important. So that lends credence to the claim that GOG is the Antichrist. But another Bible passage says that the beast is the Antichrist. The beast is the ruler of the 4th beast, which is the Roman Empire, which will come again. That's in Daniel 7, verse 8, and also Revelation 17, verse 8 and 11. But how can the Antichrist be the ruler of Russia and the ruler of Europe? Well, that's very, very easy to explain. Russia will be the nation that invades and conquers Europe, and that's in Daniel 7, verse 8. There's 10 horns, which are 10 nations, and then Daniel says, I saw another horn come up among the 10 horns, and that means another nation will come up among the 10 nations. It's talking about invasion from outside. Yes, Russia will be the nation that is called another horn, and it comes up among the 10 horns, which are the 10 nations of Western Europe that used to be within the Roman Empire. And so when Russia conquers them and reunites them under one-man rule, Gorbachev's rule, Gorbachev will become the 8th king. And he goes with the 7 kings, and that's, okay, in Revelation 17:11, it talks about 7 Caesars. Well, it says 7 kings, but these are Caesars, or emperors. And then the 8th king is another man who rules the whole of Europe, as opposed to the 10 kings, which are simply kings of nations, as opposed to the kings of the empire. See, there's 2 kinds of kings talked about in Revelation 17. And some of the kings are the emperors of the empire, which is Europe, all under one-man rule. And then there's the kings that rule the nations after the empire splits up. And so it's obviously the 2 types of kings. But the 8th king will rule all of Europe, and so that's the return of the so-called return of the Roman Empire. I'll make a transcript, I'll write a transcript and put it in the description box under this video. Now, what I've talked about is very ominous, very serious, very disgusting, sickening. But the good news is the tribulation period will only be 5 months long. That's Revelation 9, verse 5 and 10. Why so short? Well, Christ said he would shorten the trib. That's Matthew 24:22. It was 3.5 years in Daniel 20, chapter 7, verse 25. So 5 months would be shorter than that. And Christ said that from the time, once the tribulation starts, he says, I will come quickly. So if he does come just 5 months later, that would be quick. So you see, there is evidence, logic. There's the evidence of logic that 5 months would fit as the length of the trib. Also, there are 2 tribs. The trib in the 1st century is called the tribulation of those days. That's in Matthew 24:29. But the end time trib is the trib marked by where Christ says the stars will fall. This is talking about nuclear bombs. So you can see a nuclear war would be a second trib. And that passage there is where the rapture occurs. That's Matthew 24, chapter 24, verse 30 and 31. And that's the trib in which the rapture, well, a rapture occurs at the beginning. So it's a pre-trib rapture. Although I believe in the rapture, it's only going to be the people that get killed that go up. If you survive, if you're in a small town and you survive, you're not going up in the rapture. So you've got to get ready by stocking up on canned goods, food, meds, ammunition, and buy foreign currency. Now you probably know that Paul the Apostle says, we will not all sleep. And you have these false teachers claiming that this means we will not die at the rapture. We will go to heaven without dying. That's totally wrong. We will not all sleep simply means the corpses that we would ordinarily leave when we die, they won't be there, because the heat of the nuclear fireballs will turn them to vapor. So that's how that will be fulfilled. It will be fulfilled by nuclear fireballs erasing the corpses. My point is, people will die, and the saved people that die, they'll go to heaven. Now, the unsaved people that die, they'll naturally not go to heaven. And this is actually described in the parable of the fishing net, Matthew 13, verse 47 through 49. Two types of fish are caught in the net, and they're caught up in the net. Because they're caught up, that action conveys that this is about the rapture. Okay, that's all for now.